UFC Fight Night Macau is back for Contenders to Collide in the Galaxy Arena. This fight night could change the landscape across 2 divisions for the co-main and main event. But first, let's break down the beginning of the main card.
Wow. Did you write that out?
I did. Oh. Starting with Zhang, Mingyang.
The mountain tiger.
In the light heavyweight division.
Chinese mountain tiger.
Taking on Ozzy Diaz. No nickname there. What you got to say about him up front?
Mingyang, Mingyang, whichever way you want to say it. 1-0 in the UFC, 17-6 overall, 10-fight winning streak. So he's been a guy, he's been winning a lot lately.
Yep.
Get this, his last 14 fights have all ended in the first round. He's won 12 of those. So he's a guy, he doesn't spend a lot of time in the octagon. He says, I'm going to either finish you, more than likely.
Yeah.
But if not, you're probably going to finish me.
Well, take away the more than likely, because in his wins, he has a 100% finishing rate. He's never been to the scorecard in the 17 wins.
One time with a loss.
Diaz, on the other hand, he's making his debut. He's 7 years older. He's 33 years old, 7 years older than Zhang Mingyang. But he does have a 3.5-inch reach advantage.
He has 2 straight wins.
Yep.
And did you see the stat about
also him? 100% finishing weight in his wins.
Also 100%. Every one of his fights, the longest he's been is like halfway through the second round.
Right.
So both these guys just go out there and they just
I think
throw
Diaz,
all caution to the wind.
I think Diaz's total career average fight time is like 6 minutes or something like that.
So this is going to be one. It opens up the main card. It's probably going to be at 5 a.m. our time, Central Standard Time. This might be one to watch because it's going to be 2 guys going out there throwing no caution to the wind, all caution to the wind, whatever the saying is. And
throwing caution to the wind.
Throwing caution to the wind.
So here's something that I'm going to say is the difference maker here. Obviously, both guys are young in their fighting careers on the lights level, the UFC level. You got Mingyang with 1 UFC fight, and Diaz is making his debut. We see a lot of the time where power is tough to translate, from your regional circuit to the UFC. We've seen that Mingyang can get a finish in the UFC. He knocked out Brinson Ribeiro in his first fight. I'm going to lean on that, as well as the odds being in his favor, minus 320 for Mingyang. I'm going to pick Zhang Mingyang as my pick for the winner by knockout on this one.
Yeah, I got Zhang Mingyang too. Same thing you said. We've seen his power translate. Also, this fight being in China, close to China, it's got to be some home field. I'm sure he's excited to fight in front of his home fans, as a lot of these Chinese fighters are. Half the time they have to go halfway around
your country.
Well, half the time they have to go halfway around the world to even fight.
That's true.
So I'm sure if you're fighting near home, a little extra.
It definitely makes you less tired.
Yeah, but Zhang Mingyang.
Let's go to the next fight. I'm
surprised. We talked about title implications. This one has plenty of title implications. I'm surprised it's this early in the card.
Yeah. Still in the light heavyweight division. Volkan Oezdemir taking on Carlos Ulberg. This is a fun one. Oezdemir is older, slightly older, slightly smaller. He's got a striking background.
Ulberg, though, he wins this. He's 6-1 in the UFC, 10-1 overall. He wins this.
Ulberg lost his debut by knockout.
And then won 6 in a row.
Right. The Blackjack has a 71% finishing rate in his UFC fights. 5
straight finishes. His last 5 fights, he's won by finish.
It's pretty impressive.
If he wins this, he's either title shot or one fight away from a title shot. Oezdemir's no slouch, though.
I was about to say, let's give the man some credit. He's on a 2-fight win streak.
20 wins, 7 losses overall, 8-6 in the UFC. But as you said, 2-fight win streak. Both of them by first round finishes too. His last fight, he knocked out Johnny Walker first round. Fight before that, he had a first round submission.
Yeah, his extensive list of opponents.
He's won 3 out of 4. Yeah, he fights everybody.
Yuri Prohaska, Magomed Ankalaev, Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes, Daniel Cormier. Admittedly, he lost all of those fights. But with the man only having, 7 career losses, I just listed 5 of them being gigantic names.
He's fought the top of the top.
We'll take it. I still think Carlos Ulberg is that dude, and I think Carlos Ulberg is a different dude right now in the UFC. 11-1 in his career, 6-1 in the UFC, like we said. I got Ulberg winning. Odds are in his favor. I think he could get a finish over Oezdemir as well.
I got Ulberg too. I think I'm really high on Ulberg. I think he is legitimate, he's a serious title contender. I think he can compete at the top of this division. I agree with you. I think he gets a finish in this. I think it's going to be a very good win and a very good fight for Ulberg.
Let's go to the next fight. Wang Cong taking on Gabriella Fernandes. The one thing I know about Wang Cong, other than that she's undefeated,
6-0.
She's done the Joker face paint, and it is absolutely terrifying.
Yes,
if you,
I've seen
look it up.
That's her nickname, by the way, the Joker. As you said, undefeated, 6-0
in the flyweight division.
1-0 in the UFC with a KO, a first-round KO in August in her last fight.
Right.
Fernandez 9-3 overall, 1-2 in the UFC though. She did get her first UFC win her last time out. It was a split decision win against Carly Judice. That was in June.
Biggest odds disparity on the card. It's minus 950 to plus 550 in favor of Wang Cong.
One thing I'll say bad about Gabrielle Fernandez, lazy nickname, Gabby.
Yeah.
Come on.
They just called her that growing up.
Yeah, that's just like your actual nickname.
They called her up and they were like, hey, Gabriella, what's your nickname? And she was like, Gabby. They're like, are you sure? She's like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, at that point, just don't go by nickname.
Right. So here's the thing. Both southpaw strikers as their, backgrounds. Wang Cong doubles. Now, granted, it's one fight in the UFC, but she's doubled the striking output of Gabriella Fernandez. So you like that if you're a striker versus striker with the same stance.
It's one fight in the UFC, but she's also have 2 straight first-round finishes, too.
She does. Both girls, rare finishers. You got 4 wins by finish for Wang Cong and 5 for Fernandez. So I think it's going to be an interesting, good fight.
I mean, Cong Wang.
There you go.
Has finished 4 out of her 6 fights. She finishes more fights than she does.
And hasn't missed a takedown in the UFC. I got to lean Wang Cong. The odds are so far in her favor. I can't go against them at all.
Everybody Wang Cong tonight.
There you
That's
go.
all I got to say.
Song Kenan in the welterweight division taking on the king of Kung Fu, Muslim Salikhov.
Is this cultural appropriation? He's going to China as the king of Kung Fu, a Russian?
I think he fought in China for
Probably
15 years or something like that. Because Muslim Salikhov's 40 years old. He's a dog in the UFC. He's been around for forever, I feel like. He's only got 5 losses on his career. But he's taking on Song Kenan, 22-8, 9 wins by KO, 9 by sub. Both are 2-3 in their last 5, which means both of them need a win.
Song is 6-4 overall in the UFC. 3 KO wins, 3 KO losses. So he's a guy, he puts it all out there. I'll say that.
Kenan beat Ricky Glenn last time out.
He's alternated wins, losses. That's Song in his last 4.
Yep.
As you said, a win his last time.
And Salikhov is, like I said, 40, but he's built Ford tough, only being finished 4 times in his career.
Coming off of a win in June. He did lose 2 in a row before that, so it was nice to see him kind of in that skid a little bit for Muslim.
So talking about that skid, right, if you look at it, it was 2 knockouts in the past 3 losses, right? Is the 40-year-old's chin starting to fade? He's been around for forever. We know he's been durable for forever.
And he's taking on a guy that can knock you out.
Right. Is it time for Muslim Salikhov to kind of take a back seat in the welterweight division while the new up-and-comers start marching through? I think yes. Kenan's a slight favorite at home if we're going with the Chinese advantage, which I think he's going to have. The crowd's going to be there for him on his territory, on his time. I think Muslim Salikhov's a great fighter. We know that. But the 6-foot-tall reach advantage, Song Kenan's going to win the fight, in my opinion.
I think, honestly, this is going to be one of the more entertaining fights of the card. Has everything built up to be that. But I agree with you. Song's going to get the win. I just think, as you said, that 40 years old. He's been knocked out a couple times his last few fights, even though he won his last one. He's taking on a guy that has 9 career knockout wins, 3 in the UFC. Everything, in my opinion, it's in China, is pointing towards Song. So give me Song.
For the slight upset, plus 155 on that one. Next up, huge title implications. It kind of proves if women's strawweight is getting a rematch soon, or if they're getting a new challenger. Women's strawweight division, Yan Xiaonan taking on Tabatha Ricci. You got Yan Xiaonan as the slight favorite, minus 195. Tabatha Baby Shark Ricci, plus 165.
Both girls impressive records in the UFC.
Right.
Yan 8-3 in the UFC. Tabatha Ricci 6-2 in the UFC. Tabatha's she lost her debut in the UFC. Won 6 out of 7. Yan, obviously, remember her last fight was a tough fight against Weili Zhang.
It was a unanimous decision loss, but it was honestly, if she would have fought that type of fight against anyone else,
she probably would have won.
She would have won. And I'm looking at that a lot when I'm picking on
One
this
interesting
fight.
thing is she lost that one. Before that, she won 2 in a row. Before that, she lost 2 in a row. So she's won 2 out of 3, but she's lost 3 out of 5.
Right.
And she lost her last one. So Yan is kind of all over the place. You don't know.
Especially recently. But
Like she doesn't,
to her
but
credit,
she's fighting the top of the top.
Right.
And Tabatha Ricci,
6 years younger.
6 years younger. She's getting to the top, so she's just starting to fight, the top girls in the division. It's going to be a very, very interesting fight. Yan has a huge
You said Ricci lost
height
her debut.
and reach advantage.
That was not in the strawweight division. So
That is true.
That does kind of help Ricci's case. She's only faced one other loss, and it was recent, or kind of recently. This is a tough fight. This is a close fight. This is going to be one of the best fights of the night, I think.
I think so too. It's going to be a good fight. I'm leaning towards Tabatha Ricci. I'm going with the youth. I'm going with the up and comer. I think she breaks through. I don't know if she gets a title shot with a win, but she's right up there in the title contention, title talk. Yeah, give me Baby Shark.
I think I got to disagree here. I think Yan Xiaonan's going to want to take revenge on that Weili Zhang fight and put a dominant performance out there to show that she deserves a rematch for a very good fight on her showing, where she almost lost. Well, she did lose, but almost lost in the very beginning of the fight and fought through.
Arguably was choked out.
Yeah.
And then
I got to go with Yan Xiaonan winning by decision over Tabatha Ricci.
I think it's going to be a good one. Let's move on. Main event. I think this is a worthy main event. Petr Yan, no mercy, taking on Deiveson Figueiredo.
If you're not going to have a Chinese main event, this is a perfectly good second
I agree.
option.
Petr Yan, 17-5 overall with a 9-4 UFC record. He won his last fight over another Chinese fighter, Song Yadong. Before that, he lost 3 in a row, but it was against literally the top guys in the division.
Yeah.
And he's taking on Figueiredo. I mean, this dude's a legend already. 13-3-1 in the UFC. He's 3-0 at 135, though. He's been on a tear since he moved to this new division.
He's 5th.
Former 125 champ. I think he's 5th. I mean, I know this is a loaded division, a stacked division, a lot of contenders. But a win here, probably by either guy, but especially Figueiredo, I think.
Puts him
considering he's a new face in the division.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a title shot.
Yeah,
Any dominant performance by either one of these guys
I think you're right.
is a title shot.
I think you're right. 2 former champions. You mentioned it. Petr Yan lost to Aljamain Sterling, then
Sean O'Malley split decision controversy, and then dominated by Merab.
Dominated by Merab.
Which who isn't dominated by Merab at this
Figgy
point?
lost to Moreno, and then skipped town.
And now he's dominated.
Dominated Rob Font. Dominated Cody Garbrandt. Dominated who did I have written down? Cheeto Vera. Big test for both people, you got to say, because is that thing, Jan's had those layoffs where he doesn't fight too often, especially since that losing skid.
Yeah, which might be good for you. He's still only 31.
Could be. He's a surprising 31 because I feel like I've known his name for forever.
He's been at the top for a little while.
Figueiredo surprising everybody in the bantamweight division, but it's like he gets to fight at a comfortable weight.
Yeah.
A more comfortable weight, I should say. I don't know how much he's walking around at, but
it's probably
a
still
big
cutting
test.
a shit ton of weight.
I lean the underdog Deiveson Figueiredo. I think he's going to come in and give a performance similar to how Merab performed against Petr Yan. And it's like, if you can't battle my takedowns, I'm just going to keep taking you down. The difference there is Figueiredo's going to hurt you when he takes you down.
Yeah, I mean, I went back and forth with this one. I'm leaning more towards Petr Yan. I think, he had his streak.
Yep.
His little losing streak. Lost to Aljo. That is what it is. Mm-hmm. Probably, in my opinion, beat Sugar Sean. Split decision. Could have gone either way. And then, Merab did what Merab did. I think Petr Yan, his last fight, he proved he's over that. I think he's going to come in a better Petr Yan. a good Petr Yan. I think it's going to be a hell of a fight, but I got Petr Yan with the win over Figueiredo.
Cool. Well, that is all of our predictions for UFC Macau.